Talk and Rock Radio, where friends meet at the intersection of life, inspiration, and music. Here's your host, Rick Kern.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk and Rock Radio. Our guest today is a music legend. His career has encompassed 6 decades and counting. He has sold over 25 million records, has starred on TV, stage, and film. Welcome, Bobby Rydell.
Thank you ever so much, Rick. Thank you. Nice being here with you.
It's so good to have you with us, Bobby. And first of all, I want to thank you and Linda for making this happen today. This is I know you're a busy guy and a lot of things going on in your life, and
yeah, for sure, yeah.
But it's fun to have you with us, and so we can go down memory lane a little bit and talk about some fun stuff.
You got it.
One thing I gotta say, I'm not Italian. I wished I was. I do have cousins that are Italian. In fact, they're from Lipari, if that means anything to you. It's near. I think it's near Lipari. I think it's near Sicily, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well, that's way down south.
Down in the boot. Yeah, it's down in the boot.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah. I'm more northern Italian.
Yeah, this one of my very best friends, though. His name is Angelo Amoriello, and he's from New Jersey. He's a drummer. In fact, we go way, way, way back. He just left El Paso, where I'm living with my wife, and he is now living in San Marcos, Texas, over near his kiddos. But he's a true dear friend. He even had Frankie Valli come to the basement of his house one time when his band was playing, and it worked out where they were going to come down and catch their act. So it was kind of a cool story. But enough about that. I just want to talk all about you today.
Okay.
You've got such a colorful life, and you started out as a drummer at age 7. I started out as a drummer at age 11. And vocals used to be, well, that's my favorite thing. Okay. I sang like you did in the choirs and through college, for me and all of that. And, I've always loved good vocal harmonies, but let's start a little bit about how you made the choice of going from being a drummer to being a professional entertainer with your voice.
Okay. Well, when I was 5 years old, Rick, my dad loved big bands. He wanted to introduce me to, big band music and, songs from the American Songbook where the big bands were playing that type of music. So I was 5, and he took me to see the Benny Goodman Band at a place called the Earl Theater in Philadelphia. And I was enthralled. 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, 5 saxophones, piano, bass, drums, rhythm, guitar. And I said to my father, I said, "Oh my God, Dad, this is great. But there's one guy that I really love in this band. I don't know his name, but he was the drummer with the Benny Goodman Band, and that was Gene Krupa." And from 5 years old, I started playing drums because of Gene Krupa.
That's so cool. He was one of my top 5, always was, and still is. He, as I recall the story about him, I don't think he read music either, did he?
Who, Krupa?
Yeah.
Oh no, Gene Krupa did.
Oh,
Buddy
he did?
Buddy Rich didn't read music.
Oh, he's the one that I was confusing with.
Yeah, and Buddy Rich and I were dear friends. We were very, very close friends. The first time I met Buddy Rich was at Birdland in New York City. And he was just playing with a quartet. Mike Maneri on vibes, Sam Most on flute. I forget who the bass player was, but that's the first time I ever had the opportunity to meet Mr. Rich. And when I was working at the Copa Cabana, I was 19 years old, 1960. And I had 2 guys, Lou Spencer and Noel Sherman. Lou Spencer was originally one of the Dunhills, a great dance team that used to open for Danny Kaye. And Noel Sherman wrote all of my special material. So we go to Birdland, to see Buddy. And Buddy introduces me. And he says, this is one of the only young guys who can really sing and yada, 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 so on and so forth. And after the set, he comes and he sits down with Lou Spencer, my dad, and me. And, being a drummer, I was enthralled when Buddy Ritz introduced me from Birdland. So we're sitting down, and after the evening is over, I said, Mr. Rich, I said, may I have your autograph? And he just put out his hand. He shook my hand. He said, this means more than an autograph. Now I'm 19 years old. I said, well, thank you ever so much. But I wanted that autograph so bad. But, since then, back, we have become, really, really dear friends,
He was
Mr. and myself.
he was amazing when my band was playing in, I think it was in Erie. He was playing there a concert that night, and I had heard that he was staying at our hotel. It was a Howard Johnson's, and I had called him up after we got back in that night. I called him up. I called the front desk and I said, "Can you connect me to Mr. Rich's room, please?" And they did. He answered the phone. I said, "Mr. Rich, this is Rick Kern. You don't know me, but I'm a drummer. I've loved you ever since I've heard you play, and I said, it would mean so much to me if I could just come meet you real quick, not take up a lot of your time, just meet you." And he says, "You don't want to get near me right now." He said, "I just fired my bass player right off the stage tonight." and from what
I'm sure you know, Rick, that Buddy was that way.
He was.
If you remember, the tapes, with Buddy on the band, on the bus, he was that kind of a guy. He could be a son of a bitch. He could really be a son of a bitch.
He had North Texas State on speed dial. He would get those guys on the phone and say, "Okay, I need a bass player," and I'd send them one, from the school. He had the very best.
North Texas State. When they had the lab band at North Texas State,
the best.
And there was a guy there by the name of Galen Jeter. He was a trumpet player, marvelous trumpet player. And the first time I worked the Playboy Club in Dallas, Galen Jeter had the band, and it was a marvelous band. We had it was a small band, 2 trumpets, 1 trombone, 3 saxophones, alto, tenor, baritone, piano, bass, and drums. And and it was marvelous. It was really marvelous. The North Texas State Lab Band.
They were good. Always good players.
You know what was a great thing in Vegas? My first time in Vegas was at the Sahara Hotel, and I was with George Burns, for crying out loud. And later on in years, Sands, Flamingo, Riviera, so on and so forth. And they used to have what they call lab bands, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was working with Toady Fields.
Oh, wow.
God rest her soul, at the Riviera Hotel. And the band was marvelous. The band was absolutely marvelous. But then they had what they call the lab bands that would come in, right? And, they would work Toadie's show, this guy, whatever, and the lab bands, because they worked, just one show, whether it be the Sands, the Tropicana, so on and so forth. And these guys, were absolutely fantastic because, when you worked the hotel, and you worked with the band that was at the hotel, they had about, 5 days on and 2 days off, and then the lab bands would come in. And when you worked with the regular bands at the Riviera or whatever hotel, they were marvelous musicians, absolutely marvelous. But then the lab band would come in because they would only do one show for, whoever the entertainer was at different hotels. And
Right.
these cats, man, you know, just playing one show, for the different entertainers, ah, they used to, they would be, whether it be the reed section, the brass section, so on and so forth, they would be right in the, in the book, with
Yeah.
the, read section, so on and so forth, and play whatever, and the lab bands were better than the bands that worked the hotel,
I believe
and
that.
and the bands that worked the hotel were marvelous, but
Yeah.
these guys only played one show, and they would go from hotel to hotel to hotel, you know. And man, those cats, because it was just one night, they played their ass off, man.
Yeah.
They were so much. Oh Christ, they were so much fun, man.
Did you ever rub elbows with Pete Barbuti?
Oh, are you kidding? Are you kidding? My
That's
God.
that's one of the reasons why I called Cork today, Bobby, because I wanted to find out how to hook up with Pete. I've been trying to find him for over I don't know how many years, but I finally found how to get him today. And this guy gave me the name of the international president of the musicians union, and he says
In
call this
Vegas?
guy. Yeah, he says, call this guy in Vegas. He's in the phone book. I said, good. Yeah, but I'm in El Paso. I don't have a Vegas phone book. We don't get
Well,
phone books.
Pete is from
Yeah,
Scranton,
yeah,
Pennsylvania.
I
Yeah,
know. But
yeah.
I,
And
but
my
I even
wife is from Scranton.
I even heard
Uh,
that he might be living in Tucson, though. Did you hear that? Did you know that
oh
he
my
might
God,
be?
I don't know. He's
I don't
living in
know.
Tucson.
But he
I haven't a clue. I
so
don't know.
anyway, we backed him up. We played in Winnipeg, Manitoba. We do our show and then back him up on his show because he needed music behind him. So we would help him out a little bit, and
Oh,
he'd do his
I'll tell you, I've worked with Pete, I don't know how many times. And one of the things you see on YouTube when he plays, he does this thing about the second trumpet player
yeah,
who does really,
and he'd always
he
go
does,
like this with his foot, and then
the second
how
trumpet
about the
player,
broom? You remember the broom
yeah,
routine?
but the second trumpet player went like this, and
Yeah.
then he would sit down.
And he'd sit there
Oh,
and he'd look like this and he'd go like this, and just be
oh
looking around.
God,
Oh
too
God,
funny.
he was so funny. Just one of the
Oh my
best.
God. And I remember years ago, San Francisco, I'm working the Italian festival in San Francisco. And I'm on stage, and all of a sudden, Pete comes up to play piano. And, he's a marvelous piano player,
Yeah.
absolutely marvelous. And I think I was doing, I don't know, That's Life or I Left My Heart and say, and he come up and he started playing. And I just, turned my head because he was stage left, and he starts playing piano
That's
for my
funny.
book,
Yeah.
you know.
That's great. Well,
Oh God.
he started out as a musician, an excellent musician before he got into the comedy thing, So
Oh Christ. He's a
and
great man.
to play that bad of a trumpet, you got to be awfully darn good on your axe, man. And he played piano,
Oh
he
my
played
God. That,
trumpet.
that's another thing, when he does the trumpet stuff. Oh God. God bless him, man. you know, and just matter of fact, he was almost too hip for the audience.
Yeah, true.
Really, he was almost too hip for the audience.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to do an episode with him because it'll bring back some old memories for both of us, and I only hope he remembers it because, God, that was in 1975, man. That was a long
Wow.
time ago.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
but
Yeah.
we'll see if we can make that happen. I don't know. It's you and I have another common connection here. I know how much you loved Red Skelton, Clem
Yes.
Cadiddlehopper.
Yes.
And
Yes.
my wife and I were introduced by Red Skelton's manager, one of his managers. And his name was George Elias. He worked for the John B. Rogers production company out of Fostoria, Ohio, and he would come to El Paso once a year, and
Okay.
and they were great shows. We would have people. I mean, we would have everybody come to see this show. It was a big event that happened at a place called Liberty Hall here in El Paso, and George would come in and direct this show, and that's how my wife and I met. But whenever I saw that connection to you with
Red
Red,
Skelton.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty neat. You all did
Uh,
some routines together. Is that what it was, or?
well, what happened was the very first time I did the Skelton show, which I did, I think, somewhere in the vicinity of 12. And I was sitting in the audience, and the producer was a man by the name of, oh God, okay, we'll just go on from there. Anyway, he comes up to me and he says, I understand that you do one of Red's characters. Oh, his name was Cecil Barker, the producer of the Skelton show. I said, yes, sir. I said, I do Clem Diddlehopper. He said, could I hear it? And I started, and Red to my left was working with the rehearsing with the David Rose Orchestra. And he heard me and he started coming back at me. Anyway, to make a long story short, I was one of the only guest stars on the Red Skelton show who imitated one of his characters. He was Clem Diddlehopper. I played his cousin, Zeke
All right.
Diddlehopper. And it was precious, absolutely precious. And I mean, I was so close to Red, and he invited me out to his home after one of the shows. He lived in Palm Springs, and he called his wife Little Red. She called him Big Red. And she said to me, Bobby, I can count on one hand the number of people that Red has invited out to his home. And we were close. We were
Wow.
really, really close. Yeah. What a great individual.
What a what a
I always, when I did like 12 shows with him. And, after the first, second, and I was always Mr. Skelton, Mr. Skelton. And he would say, my name is Red and you're
wow.
Bobby. And it was so hard to call him Red. And
Yeah.
it was always Mr. Skelton to me. But then we became, so close. He was Red and I was Bobby.
Bobby, one of the greatest things about this conversation with you right now is that because it's bringing back just a floodload of memories about being on the road and the people, the relationships that you build when you're on the road. And I mean, it's like I remember my keyboard player, who was an incredible player. He lived in Newport Beach. Ted McKeever was his name. In one of my groups, the very first group that we took on the road, and I remember him saying that because we all loved what we did so much, we had a passion for our music, and we did it
Correct.
so well
Yeah.
that when you have something like that and you embrace that, you never work a day in your life.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, Rick. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've worked with, excuse me, a shitload of great musicians, and I have a drummer who's been with me for 43 years now, and he's a marvelous player. And there was a piano player who I first met in Atlantic City. His name was Dean Schneider. Marvelous player, man. And I remember doing a show. It was an afternoon show in Atlantic City. And so I'm doing, my act, I'm doing Wild One, Volare, Sway, Forget Him, so on and so forth. And I just turned to Dean and I said, hey man, let's do I've got a crush on you, sweetie pie.
Hmm.
I said, what's the original? What's the original key? And he says, I think it's E flat, so on and so forth. So we started, he started playing, and I've got a crush on you. Now, the ending of the tune, this is how great he was. The ending of the tune was, I've got a crush, my baby, on you. And he started playing. This was the end of the tune. He started playing. He started playing Rhapsody in friggin' Blue, man. And I turned around. I said, "Get the out of here!" He was just a monster. I mean, any tune. I don't care what the tune was, what the key was. He could play it, man.
Isn't that great?
Oh, monster piano player.
That's the way this guy was, and he did not read music, but boy, he could sit there and he could arrange. Everything we did was in 4 and 5 part harmony. We did we did the 4 freshmen like the freshmen. We did them all.
I remember when I was in high school, I went to Bishop Newman High School, and at the Academy of Music in Philadelphia, afternoon show was the 4 freshmen and Maynard Ferguson and the big band. I left school. I said, I got to get the hell out of here, man. I'm going to the Academy of Music in Philadelphia, and the 4 freshmen opened for Maynard Ferguson.
Oh, man.
And the big band. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woof.
Wow. We were, when we played one of our gigs, I think it was the Living Room in Warren, Ohio.
Oh, my God, Warren. The first time I was in Warren, Ohio, I did Summer Stock.
Yeah.
West Side Story.
There you go.
And Warren in Columbus, Ohio, and the part I played was riff.
All right.
For the Kenley Players.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, this gig in Warren, Ohio, we were finishing up on a Saturday night, and I think the next night or Monday night, the 4 freshmen were coming in, and I told this guy today, I said I would have given anything to just have, one extra day there so we could have seen those guys.
Absolutely.
They were so incredible. So incredible,
And you know who I loved, with the freshmen was Bob Flanagan.
Oh, Bob was the best. He was the best.
Trombone?
Oh.
Forget about it.
He could make it sing, man. He could make it sing.
They all could sing, but like Flanagan, when he's playing solos on the bone,
he could make the bone sing. I mean, he just was incredible, man.
For sure. Absolutely.
And in the new generation of the 4 freshmen, they're damn good too, man. I mean, they just keep it going, but they'll never be, I don't think they'll ever be as good as what you and I remembered back then.
I think you're right. But are you aware of a band in Toronto, Canada called Boss Brass?
I've heard of them. I don't know their music very well.
Oh my God. And they did an album with who was it? The singers. Like 4 girls, 4 guys. Oh, gee.
Not Singers Unlimited, was it?
Singers Unlimited.
I have every one of their albums.
Absolutely.
I have all their albums.
How good are they?
Well, they do it all. They did the Manhattan.
Yeah.
I know. Birdland.
Tangerine.
Yeah. They did it all, man. They did Manhattan Transfer.
Get the hell out of here, man.
Birdland. Birdland was one of their best that I loved.
Forget about it.
Forget about it, man. God, there is none better than the Singers Unlimited.
Oh my God. We could, like you were just saying, the freshmen and the high-lows and so on and so forth. But Singers Unlimited. Holy Jesus, God in heaven.
And seeing only people that can turn on their iTunes right now and go to Singers Unlimited and hear what you and I are talking about. They can't probably relate to what we're saying right now. But
well, I hope they do.
I do too.
Go to YouTube and put Rob McConnell and Singers Unlimited. The Boss Brass. My God in heaven. Oof.
I'm trying to remember. Was Flanagan one of the Singers Unlimited at one time?
No.
For some reason, that's.
You may be right, but Singers on the Boss Brass was with a valve trombone player by the name of Rob McConnell.
Right, I remember the name.
Rob McConnell, and I played drums, and I used to work with a friend of mine in South Philadelphia. He had an 18-piece orchestra, And he called me. He said, "Bob," he said, "can you come in and play drums?" I said, "You know what?" His name was Lou Cioce. God rest his soul. He just passed away. And I said, "Lou," I said, "my eyeballs aren't, good anymore. I haven't read in years." He said, "I don't care about reading, man. I just want time." I said, "I'll give you time up your ass." So, and I'm good. As far as time is concerned, I'm really good because I was always, you know, Buddy Rich and Krupa and, all of those cats back then. But one of my favorite drummers was Mel Lewis.
Oh man.
Thad
Yeah.
Jones, Mel Lewis, big band. And Mel Lewis had time that you can't, my God. So anyway, he calls me and I go, and on my right side, I got the charts, whatever the chart was, and I started reading again, man. I started whole notes and this and quarter note triplets, and fills, boom, boom, pa, blah, blah, ba, 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 da, da. Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I'm very proud of, Rick, uh, most of the musicians that I work with, let's say it's in Vegas or Atlantic City, they respect me more as a musician rather than a singer. And I respect that because I am, uh, I'm a, I'm a fairly decent singer, but,
I would
um,
say so.
well,
25 million records. Come on,
my
man.
God, thank you so much, but they respect me as a musician.
Yeah. Well,
It's-
you answered a big question for me because that was one of the things I mean, I know you did both and I know you started out as a drummer, but I
right.
can tell by your conversation and this fun that we're having is hearing your passion for being behind the kit, and I can relate to that,
Oh,
you know.
yeah, absolutely. Like, I think I said this earlier when I saw Gene Krupa when I was 5 years old with the Benny Goodman Band.
Yeah.
And I, Daddy, that's who I want to be. And to fast forward, I was very, very friendly with Buddy Rich. And I was in LA and I was doing the Milton Berle show. And he worked a jazz club in LA. I forget the name of the club, but I used to go there every night, Rick, every night and just listen to the band. So one night I'm there and Buddy introduces me. I became very friendly with Buddy Rich. He said, "Here's a dear friend of mine, one hell of a singer, but he's one hell of a drummer as well. He calls me up to play." I'm left-handed.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So I just, everything is, the hi-hats on the right side,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. And Buddy said, "What do you want to play?" And I think the tune was basically blues. And Buddy said, "You want me to count it?" I said, "No, man, I'll count it." Right? And the chart was here. And I played it. I was in there 10 nights in a row. I knew the charts backwards. So to be the son of a bitch that he was, and he always was, and Buddy couldn't read a note of music. He couldn't read a quarter note, a half note, the 3/4 triplet, whatever. So I get done playing the chart, and Buddy throws up a Louis Bellson chart.
Louie's my man. I studied with Louie out in L.A.
Oh my God! Louis was on one of the songs that I did on Capitol
Yeah.
called "You Gotta Enjoy Joy,"
Okay.
and it was the song was the theme song of the Milton Berle show, and Milton Berle wrote the lyrics and melody of the tune. You
Okay.
got to enjoy joy. You got to listen to it, man. It's fucking great, man. It
I
really
will.
is.
I'll listen to it.
Yeah, it's excellent. So I'm in LA. I'm on Capitol Records at the time. Who's on the date? Louis Bellson.
Nice.
Okay. Now the chart starts off pop, pop, pa da, boom, 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 pa da 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 da, boom, boom, boom. Okay, now we get into the head of the tune, right? You gotta enjoy joy. So I went over to Louis Bellson. I said, "Mr. Bellson," I said, "can you play the top of the tune?" the first verse on closed hi-hat. He said, "Is that what you want, Bobby?" I said, "Mr. Belson, if you, I'm Louis Belson, man." And he did that.
I love it.
Oh my God.
I
And then
love
the
it.
tune opens up, blah, blah, ba, da, ba. And then now he's on the high. Now he's on the ride cymbal. Dang, 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 dang. You know?
I was when I first met him at the Dick Grove Music Workshop in Studio City, uh, he was teaching one of our clinics for about a week, and then we had Richie Lepore, Ed Shaughnessy. I mean,
Oh God, yeah.
Paul Humphreys, but Louis, let me tell you, man, because one of the things that we had to do in that workshop is we had to get up in front of the class and play amongst all of us, and
Right.
that was so intimidating for me.
Oh my
But
God.
but especially having Louis there, because here's the guy, the king. This is the guy that invented the double kick drum. Here's the
The
guy.
double bass drum, yeah.
Yeah, and here's the guy that has played with all these greats, and his wife Pearl Bailey and all this, and we're
Oh my God.
we're going, man. So, but
Oh,
anyway, I
please.
got up there and I played, but boy, I tell you what, it was not easy, but it
Now,
was
did you ever hear the story about Buddy Rich and Louis Belson?
well, I've seen them battle it out,
Well, no, forget that.
yeah, yeah,
Buddy, Louis had the two bass drums,
yeah.
and Buddy just had the one bass drum, and he would play on the pedal.
I know. It was sickening. I hated it.
Oh my God! And he turned to Louis Belson and he said, "Have you heard enough, Lou?"
And I did it with one drum. Yeah.
Oh my God! Yo, Jesus God.
I know. I hated guys like that. I mean, Jeff Beccaro. If you know who Jeff Beccaro is, he was
Sure.
another. I saw him do a Diana Ross session in it's Studio 55 in L.A. A friend of mine was the
Yeah.
head engineer there with Richard Perry, and in fact, I did his show yesterday. I tell you what, watching that monster behind the drums, that's another one. Scary, man. He's in my top five.
I went to one of the studio dates with Buddy when he did Channel Suite 1.
Hmm.
All right, now we all know that Buddy couldn't read a note. Now Earl Palmer, who was one of the great studio players in LA,
Yeah.
and this chart was like about 5 minutes long. It went 2/4, 3/4, 5/4, all different tempo changes, man. And Buddy and I were just sitting there, and he's watching Earl Palmer play the chart. He went up, played it like he knew it forever.
Wow.
Buddy was just, impossible, man. He was just, what a genius, man, he was. Not, a guy who couldn't read a quarter note or a half note.
He was not of this earth, man.
Oh my God, no. He had that, what do you call it?
Just sixth sense. I don't know what you.
Whatever.
Yeah, crazy, man. Crazy stuff.
You know, the story when Buddy was in the hospital and one of the nurses came up to Buddy and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Rich, are you uh, allergic to any kind?" He said, "Yes, country and Western music."
I love it. That's great.
Oh God, yeah.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
I'll tell you another story. We're in LA and he's going to the Monterey Jazz Festival, okay, with the big band. And
Right.
this is at the time when he had West Side Story. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da. So now there's an avant-garde, trio, piano, bass, and drums, and they're playing like, and we're in the wings. And Buddy said to me, "What the hell are they playing?" I said, "Buddy, you don't know that tune?" He said, "No, man, I don't know that tune." And I started. And now the purple dusk of twilight time seals across the night. And he fell down. Because Buddy was the kind of guy, man. You gotta do things that are off the wall. You
Yeah.
know, we
Yeah.
had dinner at a place called Patsy's in L.A. He says, "What are you going to eat, Bob?" I said, "I'll have some of that Vila Sagna or some of that chicken cacciatore or some of them gnocchis, And he would just fall down on that crap, man. So when I sang Stardust, he just fell apart.
Wow. That's amazing. You know, you've been away from singing for a while because of this COVID thing and all, and I
Right?
know
Yeah.
I know you guys the Golden Boy show is getting ready to fire up again, which I'm really excited for you.
Yeah.
Talk
Thank you.
I want to have you share a little bit because only musicians or entertainers that have done this and have been as successful as you have, and I have to say I've been there as well,
Okay.
to a certain extent, and I would like to hear your version of the magnetism that happens between being an entertainer and the audience, the feeling of being validated. And it's not an ego thing. It's that
No,
feeling that we get of them loving that passion that you're putting out there. Can you
absolutely.
talk about that a sec?
Well, I watched the thing on YouTube, and Dean Martin, he was in London at the time, and this girl was asking him, "How come, you're doing this and you're at a certain age and so on and so forth?" And Dean Martin says, "You know what? I just love to have fun." And that's exactly right. When I get up on stage, I want to have fun. I want to sing, I want to do comedy, I want to do jokes, I want to do impersonations. I just want to have fun. And the audience appreciates that, Rick.
They
Absolutely.
do.
Oh, for sure.
They just want to be entertained. They want to break away from the everyday world that they're in and go
Oh,
to
yeah.
this.
Well, exactly. And I think that's what we, try and, impress upon the audience. I just want to sing and have fun. And I hope you enjoy it as well.
Exactly. Share with share with the audience one of your favorite impersonations. I've seen so many interviews with you, but I haven't seen any impersonations. I want to see it, man.
Well, like we mentioned earlier with Red Skelton, Clinty Little Hopper, blue do 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 do, you thir boy, you thir. And then of course I've worked with Jerry Lewis
Oh God, that's
and Siobhan Hyde, James Cagney, all right. So once matter of fact, I worked with Jerry. We're in resorts in Atlantic City, and I had and Jerry had a big band. He had like 18 pieces, string sections, so on and so forth. So I had recorded an album and I had charts, great charts. And one of the tunes that I was doing at rehearsal was Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered. Okay. And it just started off piano and voice. She's a fool and don't I know it, mother fool, that's my gift, so on and so forth. Now, the trumpet player, Alan Solat, who wrote the chart, comes down from the brass section to conduct the band. You got the string section, stage left, right? So this is at rehearsal, right? And Jerry's in the audience. And I start, now we're into the tune. I'm wild again, beguiled again, a super ring. And I hear Jerry in the audience, hold it, and wait. Scared the shit out of me. I said, holy Christ, I thought I was doing a great job on that tune. And he says, Bobby, the conductor is in your light. He's coming down. He's doing all of this. Nobody's going to be watching you. They're all going to be watching him doing this. Move him. So we moved him all the way over, stage left. I mean, Jerry was, Jesus, God in heaven. Opening night, I go to my dressing room and I can't find my bow tie. So I go to Jerry's dressing room. I said, Jerry, I said, I can't, would you happen to have another bow tie that I can use? He says, does it look like this? was my boat.
Did you ever work with Sammy at all?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever work with Sammy? Sammy Davis?
No, I never worked with Sammy. I knew Sammy, and one of the great stories with Sammy and myself, my mom, my dad, and my first wife, Camille, God rest her soul, he was working the Latin Casino, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Okay. So we go and see him, and we go backstage. And I knew Sammy very, very well. So he says to me, Bobby, he says, when are you going to invite me over to your house for some Italian food? I said, Sammy, I said, any night you want to come. He said, I'll be there tomorrow night. Him and George Rhodes, his conductor, piano player,
Yeah.
came to South Philadelphia. Now, my grandmother, my mom's grandmother, she cooked lasagna, manigotta, this, that, the other thing. But it's so true. It's so true. What a wonderful guy. What a wonderful man.
That's precious, man. You know, when we, my wife and I saw him at the theater in the Round in Phoenix or whatever, Celebrity Theater, I think.
You know what? I worked with Jack Benny there, Theater in the Round in Phoenix. Yeah, years ago.
Great room, and we saw
sure.
we saw Sammy there that night, and I remember he was so funny. He's when he was up there, he said, "Now, a lady was trying to take a picture of him," and he goes, "No. Come over here." You know, she must have been 100 feet away. He said, "Come over here, stand in front of me, because from there I'm going to look like a Tootsie Roll." You know, so.
Oh, God in heaven.
He was so good, so funny, and a hell of a drummer, man. That guy could play drums too. You know,
my God, he could play anything.
He could. He was one of those.
Play anything. Play vibes, play piano, drums.
Yeah, danced. He could do the Mr. Bojangles was incredible. I always remembered that one. You know, his drummer, his name was Shorty. I remember.
I don't remember his drummer. All I remember is George Rhodes. His piano conductor.
His piano. Yeah, his conductor.
But I mean, anytime you watch, if you go on YouTube and you watch him doing Mr. Bojangles, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, well,
he also was on the Tom Jones show, and he did Mr. Bojangles. I don't know. You got to watch it.
I think I've seen it. It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
And he's in jail.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
And he starts doing Bojangles. Jesus, God in heaven. It is precious.
I know. Tears. It brings tears to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, after that concert with Sammy that night, I met the drummer. His name was Shorty. And I found out later why his name was Shorty. One of his legs, I don't know, I think one of his legs was shorter than the other one, so he got this nickname Shorty. And when he walked, he kind of limped, when he walked along. And when I heard that he was going to be the drummer, I'm going, wow, okay, that's interesting. He's got a shorter leg, but that.
Oh my God, it's either the bass drum leg or the hi-hat.
Didn't matter. He was really good.
Oh my God. Have you ever heard when Sammy was at the Sands Hotel in Vegas and Buddy Rich played one chart, and the chart was Come Back to Me.
Okay.
You hear my voice, and that was the tempo. Back to me.
Yeah.
And then, Sammy sings, and then the band plays. And Buddy plays. You got to look at it on YouTube, and I dare you to count where the hell Buddy Rich was. He plays a fill that you don't know where 4 is. Yeah. You don't know where 4 is.
I know.
What the hell was that? Man?
It's dangerous when you see some stuff like that, man. I tell you, I'm amazed. To be a non-reader, but to be able to accomplish and do what he did, he was a monster.
Ridiculous.
Just totally ridiculous. Talk about your your show's coming up, the Golden Boys. Of course, we're talking about Frankie Avalon and Fabian and you. And of course, you guys grew up together in your neighborhood and
Right.
everything. It's a terrific story, and it's so great that you guys are still performing. Talk a little bit about that in the shows that
Yeah.
are coming up, Bobby.
Well, we have a show. It's in August. I think it's August the 3rd, right here around my area in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a place called the American Music Theater. It's a marvelous, marvelous venue. It's a 3 o'clock in the afternoon show. And, to go back, Frankie and I was 10, Frankie was 12. Frankie played trumpet, I played drums. And we used to do USO shows, this, that, Veterans Hospital, so on and so forth, right? And so I've known Fabian, we were both born and raised on 11th Street in South Philadelphia. I was the 2400 block, he was the 2500 block, but I never knew him
Hmm.
until he started in the business, and then we became friends. But Frankie and I go back. I was 10, Frank was like 12 years old, you know, and we started the show back in 1885. And I think we did, I don't know, 45, 61 nighters, and it was sold out. It was SRO. And I turned to Frank, who I call in Italian Cheech. I said, Cheech, I said, this is marvelous, but how long is this going to last? A year, 2 years tops. That was 1985. We're going into 2022, and we're still doing the show, and it's better than it was in 1985.
Wow. Now, did you take that show before overseas or anything, or was it strictly
We
stateside?
never we never went overseas. And I said to Cheech, Frankie, I said, hey man, let's go to Australia, And he would say, nah, man, too much water. Too
Well,
much
I
water, man.
I know they love you in Australia. In fact,
Oh, absolutely. I love Australia, man. Yeah.
I've got a dear friend from El Paso that lives over there now, and he's an incredible guy. He used to be the director of Voice of America, and his name's Pete
Oh,
Heinlein, and I'll be doing some shows with him coming up. But he's a
where in
really
Australia is he? Rick?
I don't even remember the name of it. I can
No,
find
it's
out
good.
and
He's
I'll
Sydney,
send it to you.
Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide,
Yeah,
wherever.
I don't recall. I've got it in my cell phone, but I don't have it in front of me here. But I'll let you know, and
Yeah.
I'm going to send you a picture also of me and Louis Belson after we get off. I'll send it to you.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that'd
yeah,
be great, man.
yeah.
I never had a picture with Louis, but
Well,
I remember when I worked Disney World, and there was a jazz club in Disney World, and it was just a trio, or a quartet, and Belson was playing drums
that's the first place
there.
I saw Louis Belson Orchestra was at Disneyland in California on the Coca-Cola Terrace. My wife and I
Oh,
saw,
okay,
and
okay. And this was just a small little jazz club
yeah,
in Disney World in
yeah, yeah,
Orlando, Florida. And it was just, I think it was Louis, and it was either trio or quartet, you know.
yeah.
And I went up and I said hello to Louis, and he remembered. He remembered the date that we did when I was on Capitol Records. Yeah.
When you were performing in Australia, were you doing your one man show over there, or did you have a full orchestra, or how did you do your shows there?
As far as the orchestra was concerned, it was 2 trumpets, 1 trombone, 3 saxophones, alto, tenor, bari, piano, bass, drums, guitar.
Okay.
And yeah, it was me. There was no opening act. It was me for an hour and change. And I've been there so many, many times. And I love the country. The first time I was there was 1960 with the Everly Brothers.
Nice.
They were the
Yeah.
headliners, of
Yeah.
course.
Bye bye love. Yeah.
Whatever.
Nice.
My God, they did. So
Yeah.
many great records.
The when you were doing your show over there, and this is a two-part question. When you did your show over there, as well, when you do the Golden Boys show, uh, anytime during the show, do you get behind the drum kit and play some?
I used to, Rick, years ago. I had a drummer by the name of Carl Matola, and he was from Philadelphia. He was a marvelous player. And when we used to do the club act, we used to do a drum solo. He was right-handed, I was left-handed, and we used to play C Jam blues, ba da ba da ba da ba da,
Yeah,
and
know it
then we
well.
would play, and like Carl would do a four, I would do a four, he would do another four, I would do another four. Then we would do a thing together, batten biddle boom, batten biddle boom, batten biddle boom, so on and so forth. But it was great. It was really wonderful. The audience loved it. But I don't do it anymore. I don't play. I still have my kit downstairs in my music room here, in Philadelphia. And what I do is I put on my earphones and I'll play like to uh, uh, oh my God, Rob McConnell, Boss Brass, and Terry Gibbs, and his album Explosion, And I was dear friends with Terry, very, very close to Terry Gibbs, man. And I don't know if you're aware of the album, the Explosion album.
Not quite
Oh my!
sure.
It was all of the L.A. Cats, man. And my favorite drummer on that album was Mel Lewis.
Oh,
And
great.
of course, Mel Lewis was with Thad Jones, and I always wondered why they called him Mel the Tailor. That was his nickname, Mel the Tailor Lewis. And the story, but I always thought there was, okay, Mel Lewis, man, he had tremendous time. I mean, if it started here, dum, 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 he was right there, man. The tempo never changed. But the reason they called him Mel the Lewis Tailor, he had a tailor who had bunions on his feet. And so I guess Mel had bunions on his feet as well. So that's why he was called Mel the Tailor Lewis, because his tailor had bunions on his feet.
All right. Well, I
Holy
wouldn't
Jesus.
wouldn't have figured that one out.
Oh, no. And I always thought Mel the Tailor because of time.
Yeah.
Tremendous time. It never went there. It never went here. He's always boom, dang, dang, dang.
That's great. The couple things I still want to talk about with you. One of them being the 1963 Bye Bye Birdie
Right.
with
Yeah.
you and Margaret. You and
And Margaret.
Margaret. Talk a little bit about that. First of all,
Well, I went out. My manager at the time was a man by the name of Frankie Day, and he was working a place called Bay Shores in Summer Point, New Jersey. And I filled in playing drums. Frankie Avalon was playing trumpet, and the band was called Rocco and the Saints. Yada yada yada. He comes up to me and he says, "I'd like to manage you." I was like 15, 16 years old. I said, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Talk to my manager." I talked to my father. Yada yada yada. We shook hands. He became my manager. Okay, we're going to go fast forward. He calls me up. He said they want you to screen test for Bye Bye Birdie. Okay, so I go out there with Ann Margaret, and the director was a man by the name of George Sidney. So when you screen test, they want to see what kind of personality you have, how you come across on camera. We read some lines from the script, and Anne sang one boy, one special. I sang one girl, one special girl. And Mr. Sidney said, "Okay, thank you ever so much. We'll be in touch." I go home to Philadelphia 2 weeks later. Frankie Day, my manager, he says, "They want you for the part of Hugo Peabody." And I had seen the Broadway show, and Hugo Peabody did nothing. There were no lines, there was no dialogue, no dancing, no singing, no nothing. I said, "What the hell kind of a part is this going to be?" Make a long story short, Mr. Sidney saw some kind of magic between Anne Margaret and myself. And every day that I would go back to Columbia Studios, my script got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where there was more dialogue, there was dancing, there was singing. And I'm not a movie star, but if I had to be involved with one motion picture, my God, Bye Bye Birdie is a classic.
Well, let me ask you about that. When you were studying in school, excuse me, did you study dance? I mean acting? Did you do any stuff
No,
in
no,
drama?
I was never, laid down taps, tap dancing, but I was always a fairly decent mover. And our choreographer was a girl by the name of Anna White. She was phenomenal, and she had an assistant by the name of Tommy Panko. And that number, that Lots of Living number in Bye Bye Birdie, we must have rehearsed that for 2 weeks and about a week to shoot. So and Anna White, during the rehearsal, she broke her leg and she was on crutches
Wow.
teaching us. So, like I said, I was never a kind of guy to lay down taps. I was never a tap dancer, but I was always a good mover. And most of the moves in that particular number, Lots of Living, were moves. All that kind of stuff, you know. But like I said, I'm not a motion picture star, but to be involved in one movie, it's a classic, Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh, it is. It's
Yeah,
right
for
there with
sure.
it's right
Grease.
there with just a few others, but that was
Well,
one of the good
the
ones.
the only two I can know that I know of is Grease and Bye Bye Birdie, because all of the kids in school, they're either doing, high school, they're doing Bye Bye Birdie or they're doing Grease.
And we did West Side Story. That's a good one too.
Ah, West Side Story. I did that with the Kenley Players,
Yeah.
and I played the part of Riff.
All right.
And
Cool.
the big number that was cool, cool,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, stay cool, boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy who was in the original Broadway play was a guy by the name of Larry Kurt. And now I'm doing summer stock in Warren and Columbus, Ohio. And he starts thinking, Bobby Rydell, rock and roll artist, what the hell's he doing here? So now we do the thing, and we became really, really good friends, because uh, I, rem- I remember working with the choreographer about a week before opening. I worked with him till 8 o'clock, till 3 o'clock in the morning, because the opening of the show was the prologue, and that was me alone on stage. Ba-da-ba-doo-da, ba-doo-doo-doo-da. And moves like this, and you know, and I remember after the first opening night, I called my mother. I said, Mom, you got to come and see me. I'm great. And I was great.
Did they pay you good for that one?
Whatever it was, who cared? It was summer stock and a great company, Warren, Ohio, and Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was wonderful. My God.
We need to talk a little bit about your book, Bobby Rydell, Teen Idol on the Rocks, A Tale of Second Chances.
Yes.
I'm getting the book ordered. I'm going to order it tonight. I haven't read it yet, but I
Oh, you'll
definitely,
love it. You'll love it. It's very sincere. It's very honest. I poured my heart out, in this particular book. Bobby Rydell, Teen Idol on the Rocks, A Tale of Second Chances. And I'm very, very proud of it. It's an easy read. I mean, you could read it in one sitting. And I've heard from so many people, fans, so on and so forth, who love the book. And like I said, I'm very proud of it, Rick. Yeah.
well, I can I can tell you are, and thank you for doing that book because when you're passionate about what you do, and it's very obvious to me that you are very passionate. You're a
Yes.
very sensitive kind of guy that's a straight shooter, and
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Yeah. I appreciate that.
well, I can tell. It might be a drummer thing. Who knows, man? Hey, who knows?
Yeah. You know what? I can go back. My dad, God rest his soul. Uh, my first set of drums was at a pawn shop, and I bought a set. It was called Revere. Bullshit. Bullshit set of drums, But they were
Yeah.
drums.
Yeah.
I had a snare drum, tom-tom, floor tom-tom, you know. Now, my father worked for a place called the Electrolyte Carbon Company, and he was a punch press operator. And he lost his middle finger on his right hand, and they gave him a bonus. So now my dad knew that, I'd love the instrument. So he took me to a place in Philadelphia called 8th Street Music Sales. And they had, Zildjian and Gretsch and Slingerland and William F. Ludwig and yada, yada, yada. I saw a set and it was Black Oyster Pearl. William F. Ludwig.
Like the Beatles.
I had that set before Ringo. So
Well,
I bought this, and to this day, Rick, I still have the receipt. I bought cymbals, all of the hardware, the bass pedal, the hi-hat, so on and so forth, $500.
oh my gosh.
500. I still have the receipt. William F. Ludwig, Black Oyster Pearl.
My gosh.
And then we had a place in Philadelphia called Music City. And at that time, Rogers came out.
Now you're talking my language.
Is that right? Yeah. I traded my
three,
Ludwig in for Rogers.
I've got three sets of them.
I hated Rogers because if you didn't have a drum key, you couldn't. I mean, the floor tom-tom.
Yeah.
You had to have a key.
Had the drum key. No, for the legs.
Had to have a drum key.
For the three legs.
William F. Ludwig, on the floor tom-tom was a spring.
I know.
Up, down. If you didn't have a goddamn drum key, you couldn't fix that setup.
Drum key was on my keychain all the time, man.
Oh my God! I used to hate Rogers.
Yeah, in fact, my first kit was a Marine Pearl. My second kit was a Blue Onyx, and I still have it. In fact, Michael Jackson's drummer has played on my drum kit. And
get out of here!
Yeah, really? And in fact, we were playing at the Sahara in Lake Tahoe, and we're in the lounge, and we were doing one of their songs, "Enjoy Yourself." And so I invited him up. I said, "Come up and play on your song, man." So he came up, and he broke my snare drum that night. I was so
break your snare drum.
He hit it too hard or something. I don't know. I don't know. You don't break snare drum.
You break a snare drum.
Yeah, but he did. He broke the top head, man. So I had to run out to my van and get a head and fix the darn thing for the next show. But
my God!
But he was
another set that I had was Levy. Remember Levy?
Yeah, I remember the name.
It was a fairly decent set of drums.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine in Philadelphia, his name was Billy Angelucci, who was also a drummer, and he was like he played Gretsch at the time. He played Gretsch drums, and he was always big fan of jazz, so on and so forth. So I traded. I said, here. No, I'm trying to remember how I got Levy, but anyway, he was like a Chico Hamilton kind of guy, Angelucci, Max Roach, so on and so forth. But other than Ludwig, Rogers, and then I had Levy, and they were a fairly decent set of drums.
Cool.
Yeah, they were pretty good drums. Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question, and I'm not putting you on the spot here, but I want to ask you this: what would be the possibility, and you just tell me straight up, of getting you three on a Zoom call with me sometime and hear you guys rap it out?
Oh my God! I honestly don't know. I don't know if Frankie does them. I don't know if Faye does them. I mean, I do them a lot. I love doing them because
I know.
You get across. I mean, I've done Australia, I've done England, I've done Scotland, all over the joint, and it's wonderful, because you're one-on-one, with your fans, so on and so forth. I honestly don't know how we can get the three of us together.
Yeah. Well, it was just a thought. I don't know if they do any interviews at all, I'd love to interview Frankie sometime, and Fabian too. I mean, they're both, I
Well,
like your.
yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, to do a Zoom with the three of us would be absolutely wonderful. How do you do it? I don't know.
No, I can do that. I can set that up. That's easy.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, we can do that. I've got the account. I can make that happen. I
Well,
just
if you
need
can
you to talk to
do
him, and
that,
if you can
I
get.
think it would be, Rick, I think it would be absolutely marvelous with Frank, Faber, myself, and yourself.
Let's do it. It'd be fun, man, and we can all just kind of rap it. But I'll sit back and listen to you guys, because I think it would be fabulous to hear your stories with them, and
Well, absolutely. You got to remember, there's three Italian guys from South Philadelphia who lived a couple of blocks away from one another.
I know that, and
Fabian and I were on 11th Street, and Frankie was on 9th Street, for Christ's sake. Yeah.
I loved your comment the other day in one interview that I heard where you said, "Yeah, I was 10 years old and Frankie was 40."
Yeah, right. Yeah, he said, and Frankie loves that, man. Yeah, Evelyn loves it.
Oh, I
Matter
think
of fact, when we do the Golden Boys, we open up with Bandstand. We're going hop and pop, we're going hop and day. And I open up, and then Fabe comes on. And I introduce Fabe, and I said, Fabe and I were born a half a block away from one another. I was on 2400 South 11th Street. He was 2500 South 11th Street. And Frankie was on 9th Street. And when we were kids, Frankie and I used to throw things at Frankie. We used to throw the kids from 10th Street because we didn't like those kids. We were on 11th. He was on 9th. We threw the kids from 10th Street. We didn't like those kids.
That's great. Yeah. Oh, well, I think it would be fun. I'll let you carry the ball on that one. Talk to the guys.
I'll try.
See what they say, and then if we can make it happen, you guys pick the time. I'll set up the date.
Well, I'll be seeing those guys. What is August the 3rd? It's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Where I live right now, I live in Bluebell, and it's like an hour and a half drive, maybe even less. They got a flight. Well, Fabe lives in Pittsburgh. He lives an hour and a half outside of the Pittsburgh airport. And of course, Frankie, he's been in LA forever, since 1960.
Yeah.
So, we'll all see one another, and hey, look, I met this guy, Rick, man. He's marvelous, He wants to do a Zoom thing with the three of us.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes from there.
I think it would be an absolute blast. By then, I will have read your book, and, and who knows what can happen out of this. It would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Bobby, I got to tell you, man, this has been an absolute blast today with you. Thank you for you and Linda to do this with me. A guy from West Texas that is retired drumming, but now doing this podcast show, and I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying the stories. Well, my friend, we're gonna wrap this one up. Let you get to your dinner or whatever you got to do tonight.
I think we're having steak tonight.
Oh, cool, man. Well, we're having lobster. Yeah, right.
Lynn,
I'm going to his house.
My wife said she's going to go to your house.
One of the things I got to tell you real quick before we go, and one of the things I wanted to do with you today was talk about some fun stories that you all did when you were traveling and doing, your shows and stuff. And we were always playing tricks on ourselves. The band members. We were doing crazy stuff. We were playing in Ocean City, Maryland, at the Sheraton Fontainebleau.
Oh, okay.
At our night off, my wife and I go into the club, and the manager's there, and he came over. I introduced him to my wife, and I don't know if you've ever heard double talk, guys that could do double talking.
Oh, absolutely.
Who
was the famous guy? I forget his name, who did the double talk.
Oh, man, and this guy was a master at it. I'd never seen this before, but he had shared this little talent with me, I think the day we were setting up or something for, when we first started there. And he's doing this stuff with me, and I'm going, man, that is so good. That is so funny. He says, let's do something with your wife. He said, when you bring her in for dinner, I'll come over and you introduce her, and then I'll start doing this thing, and we'll not tell her about it, you know. So anyway, we're sitting there, and he comes over, and I said, "Sweetheart, this is the club manager." And of course, she's going to be on her best behavior because this is my boss, right? You know. So
Sure.
anyway,
Right.
he's standing there, and I said, okay, this is Jim Jennings or whatever his name was, and he starts this double talk thing, and so anyway, he's doing it so well, and then he says, and what do you think about that, Sharon? And she's sitting there, and she's going, well, and I'm just like this. I'm just losing it, man. I'm
Right.
laughing my head off. And then she's kicking me under the table. You know, it's like, why are you laughing, you know? And I finally just had to stop and say, "Sweetheart, this guy's doing what they call double talk, and
Right.
you were
I can't remember his last name. His first name was Al,
uh-huh.
who did tremendous double talk.
Yeah.
And he was with Burl, he was with Benny, he was with, everybody, I can't remember his last name, but he was a master on that stuff.
Oh, it's great. If you remember the last name, let me know, because I'd love to find that information and watch
God,
that.
I'll find, I'll Google double talk master, Al somebody.
Okay. I bet I could find it. But anyway, so the rest of this story is we were having lobster that night. And so Dan, our guitar player, he was going up to Jersey or something, Lewes, Delaware or something, for the week, for that night off. And so what we did is we took the rest of the lobster of Sharon. She had the full lobster. And we took the rest of it off her plate, put it in a to-go box, and took it down to our room. And then I got the key to his room, which was right next door to ours. And I went into his bathroom and I opened up the toilet and I stuck it down in the toilet with the claws up like this, and closed the toilet down. The next day when he gets back, that bathroom smelled so bad. And he opened up the toilet and he goes, God, and he about barfed. And he gets on the phone, he calls me up and he says, get your butt over here and clean this thing out of my toilet. But it was a funny trick at that moment.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. When I introduced my drummer, who's been with me for 43 years, going on to 44 years now. And I introduced him, I said, ladies and gentlemen, here's my drummer, my conductor, David Covenant, been with me for close to 43 years now, and he's going to stay with me until he gets it right.
I love it. Well, Bobby, today you did get it right. Thank you for doing this show with me. I really appreciate it.
Rick. Thank you, my friend.
I appreciate
and I'm glad to know that you're a musician, man, as well as myself.
Well, I think that's why we had so much fun today. Not just a musician, but a singing drummer like you are. And I love the stories. I love your passion. Tell Linda I was just kidding about the lobster. We're not having lobster tonight.
No lobster.
I'm staying home.
Oh, so she's staying home.
Okay, but it might be.
We're just going to have the steak tonight.
It might be spaghetti. I don't know. We had spaghetti last night.
No, not spaghetti tonight. No, steak tonight.
All right, buddy. I'm going to let you go for now, but this was a lot of fun. And let's stay in touch. I'll send you those pictures in a while. I'll send them to Linda's phone, okay? So
Please
you'll have them. And let's stay in touch, and let's work on that deal in August, okay?
Sounds good. Sounds good, Rick. Thank you.
My friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, man. Take care and be safe, okay? Bye-bye.
Absolutely. You too, my friend.
Bye-bye.